about a week ago, spirit team, they got all hot and bothered, and they were like, got a big message for you, got a big message for you. And it was so big that they're like, baby cakes, this message is so important. It's so big. We need you to go out into the field for it. And I'm like, okay, so I round up Peanut and we go to this place that's the field, and, we're walking around the field, and, partway through I could, kind of feel the message beginning to rumble up. I mean, it really was kind of those moments of like God in the sky, and there's ships in the sky, like, we've got the message for you. And I'm like, okay, hit me with the message. And they're like, connect the dots. And I was like, if you would have seen me out there all by myself with Peanut, I literally stood in that field and I looked up at the sky and I yelled really loud, are you fucking kidding me? Like, after all of this, and now you want me to connect the dots, right? Because I felt like it was my Noah moment of like, the boat got built, the ship got built, and now I got to go out and collect all of the animals. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So, like, they gave me this message, this really big, powerful message. It's like, connect the dots. And I had a literal meltdown. I had a meltdown. It was kind of along the lines of like, do you see what's going on in the world right now? And do you think I have time and energy to, like, quote unquote, connect the dots? You fucking connect the dots. I was really in my element. So after I gave them a piece of my mind, and after I got calmed down, I started walking back to the car, made the full circuit in the field with Peanut. So she got to play and do her thing, and we made our way back to the car. And in the parking lot, I shit you not, I look down, and when I look down, what do I see? I see these splayed all over the little parking lot, and I go to pick them up, and it's a blue and a white and a black and a gray and a pink, and they all kind of have some meanings to them. And I literally heard reverberating in my ears again, connect the dots. And then, so I've gone through like hurt, anger, frustration, like out of my mind with like, are you kidding me? And I'm all calmed down. And so I pick these up and I start laughing. And I'm like, of course there's colored pencils, me being on my art journey. Of course there's colored pencils, and they've told me to connect the dots. And I come back home, and I've had these on my desk, these bedraggled pencils, and I've kind of, sharpened some, and some of the others are broken. And I've had them on my desk all week to remind me to connect the dots, connect the dots, connect the dots, because it's kind of one of those powerful messages, but also cryptic messages at the same time. And if you've been following along with me, you know that I have been like going through the ringer on this transformation and scrambling and trying these different things. And, people are kind of like scratching their head and like, what is Dana doing? And I've lost people, and then people have gotten upset, and other people are like happy about it. And I'm trying to figure everything out in the middle of it, because Spirit Team wants me to live my transformation a little bit more publicly than I would, really like at this point. But evidently, like last week was the Connect the Dots week. And I kind of sort of did, people. Like, after I got done with my hissy fit and after I got calmed down, I started kind of putting two and two together on some of these cryptic messages where I haven't known where they fit, and they started plugging in, and the whole thing plugged in together into this one spot. And I don't know why I haven't landed here sooner. Like, now that I see it, it is so obvious. So let me line this up for you. Basically, connecting the dots is the love of my storytelling. I love to tell a good story, and the love I have for color and texture. And I've been doing color and texture in art and talking with you guys about that since my art revolution kicked off middle of summer. And then the third piece is like this, re-revolution, really bringing to the forefront my love of psychic mediumship, like really getting plugged into the field, and just like the sessions I have been doing for people. I mean, they are just freaking handbooks. I had a woman contact me recently, and she was like, Dana, I sat down with the audio and I spent a couple of hours of outlining the whole thing. And she's like, I have no words. It's just wow. And she's going to be off to the races with her psychic and spiritual gift with the handbook that me and Spirit Team gave to her. Basically, through psychic mediumship, right? So Spirit Team has been going story, and they've also been going color texture, and they've also been going psychic mediumship, and I've been treating them separately. Like we do, compartmentalizing them. I've been treating them separately, you know, trying to do a little over here, 5D news stories, right? And then a little over here of the art stories, right? And then psychic mediumship, a little bit of that over there. And spirit world is like, connect the dots, lady. Connect the freaking dots. And so this video is our first trial of that. The reason I told you that story is so that this cryptic video might make a little bit more sense. Like I figured like the first video I do of this, I kind of need to sort of explain it a little bit, and then we can just flow into some of these a little bit more. So this video is going to have a story with my color mediumship. So the art that I've been doing is all very guided from Spirit Team with color mediumship, texture mediumship, mediumship messages coming through the color and texture. So story with me showing certain color and texture that is healing EMDR, connected up with that story, with psychic mediumship messages from Spirit Team. Connect the dots. All right, so that's what we're going to try. And when we get done with this, follow me through the whole thing. When we get done with this, I would love to hear about your experience, because this seems to me that this is spirit world having me put together a multimedia spiritual experience, right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a deep dive into the story about my grandfather, Battle of the Bulge, World War II, psychic recall kind of stuff. So good breath in, blow it out, rub those hands together, and let's see where we start with. Let's start from the beginning, and the beginning is, it's 2009. I am living in Durango, Colorado, south of Durango, Colorado, over Florida Mesa with my ex-husband, Bob. We're living in that beautiful little cabin over the Animas River Valley. You know, and I got to tell you, in the different places that I live, there's all these different energy things that go on. And in Durango, Colorado, being so close to the Four Corners region, it's kind of got its own like arid, edgy, ancient ships in the sky, underground stuff going on. You got the mountain ranges in the back and the river flowing through, and then there's access out into all kinds of desert. So it really is kind of like this really amazing, wonderful crossroads, and there's all kinds of metaphysical stuff that happens there if you are paying attention. And the spiritual community, at least when I was there, when me and Bob were there, it was really rich. It was really plugged in. And so me being like 8 years at that point into my spiritual path, psychic development, it was a great playground for the outdoors and spirituality and the different things that we had access to. So that's the setting. That's where I'm at in my journey. And it's right in the middle of 2009. So it is summer. The heat is on, you know, like windows open in the evening, air blowing through, catch all that cool air, close it all down to contain that cool air as it heats up during the day. Summer of like nice big walks and hikes and backpacking and cycling and all the great outdoor stuff and the gardening. And that's what's going on. You know, at this point, I've really begun to establish my life coaching, intuitive coaching, psychic mediumship career. Like I'm doing sessions, I'm hot in my own spiritual journey path kind of thing. I've got some anomalies going on, you know, and in the middle of all of this mix, middle of the summer, middle of the heat, middle of the day, one day I was upstairs, and in this cabin, there's something we call the catwalk. You know, and there was on one side of the cabin, there was this upper story and then a catwalk that went across the kitchen living room area. And then the catwalk went across that into the bedroom area. And my office was stationed upstairs near that window, and then the catwalk to come across and go down the stairs to get downstairs. And so I had been upstairs working, and I came out of my office, and I was moving along the catwalk to go down the stairs. And about halfway across the catwalk, I felt like a massive energy shift. I don't even know how to describe it. It kind of went whoop. And the next thing I knew, even though my feet were still on the catwalk, energetically, it felt like my legs went through. It literally felt like my legs went through the catwalk, and then this energy space opened up, and I really wasn't in the cabin anymore. It was like having a full-on recall. And when I panned around and looked around where I was at, I was in the middle of a battlefield. It was Europe. I know it was World War II, and it was just guns and soldiers, and it was horrifying. It was terrifying because, like, a split second earlier, I knew I was in the cabin, and then I was in this space, and all I could, and the wherewithal I had, all I knew to do was just like, keep moving forward, walk through it. And so, I kept walking through, and even though my physical legs were still hitting the catwalk and then the stairs, thank God, the rest of me, energetically, I was like submerged. It was like the floor had gone out from underneath me, and I was submerged, and I was moving through, and it was in this whole, European battlefield amphitheater kind of thing. And I moved through it. And by the time I got to almost to the bottom of the stairs, it was gone. Completely gone. And I literally, like, I stood there for a couple of minutes, just kind of like recovering, right? It just was like, that was a real shocker. And I was so terrified it was going to happen again. I was like, oh my God, if I continue to move, am I going to walk into another scene? Is it going to happen again? Like, I didn't know if I could trust the environment that I was in. And then my brain starts clocking overdrive, because there's a part of my brain that I'm just like, oh my God, am I safe? Like, are we okay? Like, I was doing that whole thing. And then another part of my brain immediately tried to start figuring out, like, what the hell? What the fuck was that? Oh my God. And I was really able to begin to clock at that point that whatever it is that I had walked through, I knew for certain that it was a battlefield from the amphitheater of World War II. Near as I could figure at that point is that I had energetically clocked out of the space that I was in, and I had clocked into whatever this snapshot was, and I was thoroughly there in it, and then I was able to walk out of it. And so once I got myself together, like once I got myself back together, of course, like, I sat down for a little while just to kind of like breathe, in and out, and like, oh my God, what was that? And so I sat there for a while going like, oh my God, what was that? And near as I could figure, this is where I started putting the one and the one to make the two to come together, is that the very first thing that came through was like, of course, my grandfather Newbie, this is on the maternal side of the family, this would be my mom's dad, he had fought hand-to-hand combat in World War II. Like, he was in Battle of the Bulge. Like, he was over there during that time, a part of the whole effort. And he saw some real hardcore time over there. And so near as I could figure is like, somehow something happened in my cellular code that like clicked on, that was connected to him. And I swear to God, I had like a flashbacky recall kind of thing through my own body from my cellular code DNA relationship with him. Now, you got to understand that also at this time, I am really beginning to get attuned or plugged into this whole idea of us carrying around 7 generations of code in our body. So those of you who are watching that don't know this, and I've known this for a while, and it's, common knowledge within the spiritual community, is that the cellular coding within our body, the hereditary strains of the DNA and the cellular coding within our body, we carry all kinds of hereditary DNA coding from our ancestral line, and it goes back 7 generations. So my grandfather, that's 2 generations out, and for whatever reason, I'm learning about all of this stuff, and for some reason, that part of the cellular code in my body that was connected to him, it triggered, and I had like a PTSD, CPTSD flashback experience event that was very visceral, and to me it went beyond just something happening in my body. Like it was a full-on scope that happened, and it felt like it was happening to me and at me and through me, and once I walked through it and was able to recover, I was like, wow, that was more than a movie reel. Even at that point, I knew the difference between seeing a psychic mediumship movie reel versus actually living a point in time. Those are 2 completely different experiences. And so I came out of this, and I'm putting all of this together, and I'm realizing that, okay, wow, maybe I'm doing some of the family releasing through my own body of the DNA encoding that came through from my grandfather. Maybe I'm doing that. Maybe I'm doing some of that healing and releasing now that he wasn't able to do in his lifetime. That's how much the indentation of this landed in his cellular code, and then landed in my mom's code, and then landed in my code. And this is how this stuff gets passed down generation to generation to generation. Now, I will say good stuff gets passed down too. Really good stuff gets passed down too. But the trauma gets passed down as well. Now, the really interesting thing that happened right around that time is, like, I had a book, or I ran across a book, and I don't have it on my shelf anymore, but the title of the book is called My Body, My Earth. And the woman who wrote it was a practitioner doing body-based psychological healing kind of work. And what stood out to me in that book was the story of this woman who had Crohn's disease. So like this is deep intestinal solar plexus kind of chronic illness going on. And this woman had tried everything to heal herself. And then she'd run across this practitioner. And this practitioner was like, okay, well, let's take a deep dive into your body and find out where the Crohn's disease is sitting. Let's talk with your body and find out what's actually going on there. Like, what's the memory bank? Okay, what's the memory bank of this? So this practitioner and this client, they did the deeper work, and this woman, the patient, was actually able to go into deep recall into her cellular code way back, like deep into that like 7th generation stuff. She had a hereditary line to her Native American Indian lineage. And when she was able to go into the deep cellular code where she was affected with Crohn's disease, when she landed there, when she was able to arrive there, all she could see was a battlefield of like the new pioneers coming in, and then her lineage on horses with bows and arrows, and they're fighting, and there was all this stuff going on. And what this practitioner and this patient were able to figure out was the chronic illness of her Crohn's disease was this battle still going on, playing itself out in her cellular code in her body. And it was displaying, the symptoms of it were displaying as the chronic illness of Crohn's disease. And so this practitioner and this patient, they got busy on the energy work and the healing work and so on and so forth. And by the time they finished a series of sessions, the chronic symptoms of her Crohn's had significantly depleted as far as what I could remember from the story. I don't know if it went completely away, but it went from being at like flared up at like 100% and was able to drop down to like a 10 or 20% region. You know, that's significant. That is significant. So I'm there in 2009, middle to summer of 2009 with where I'm at in my spiritual journey. And I'm thinking about my grandfather and my cellular code. And I'm thinking about the battlefield and what was going on with that through my own body. And I'm thinking about this woman and the story, you know, the healing story that was going on there. And that made such an impact on me. It had such an impact on me that I really internalized at that point that everything is psychosomatic. Everything is psychosomatic. And we are totally a co-creator in our health and our disease, which is a dis-ease. We're totally a co-creator in that. And we even set this stuff up for ourselves this lifetime to go through the learning and the development and growth that we need to go through. The thing that I always say at the end of the story, because I can kind of feel things coming into conclusion, you know, I can feel I delivered everything that I needed to deliver. So that's the story that I've got for you for now. You are welcome to book a psychic mediumship session with me if you want to. Just follow the resource information that I've got here. And also, all of the artwork, this is guided psychic mediumship color and texture for healing therapy, for color healing therapy. I'm beginning to do that. Spirit team guides me with all of these images. The images you saw, they were all guided as far as the selection and the placement in this video to help create some sort of color healing with your chakra system, or EMDR line shaped texture with your vision to help create shift and healing with that as well. You can check out my artwork. I do have artwork available with psychic mediumship messaging that goes with the image. This is very specialized work that I'm doing with color, texture, and form for you. So go check those out. And definitely, I would love to hear what you have to say about your experience with this video, with this whole spiritual mixed media of story, art, mediumship, to bring inspiration and uplift and healing and shift and illumination for all of us during this great time of change on the planet right now. So that's what I've got for you for now. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Make sure you keep walking forward to meet those miracles along the way. And I will see you in my next video.